I'm getting ready for St. Patrick's Day, and my plan is to make little shamrock necklaces for the girls. And I started out by putting medium frit in my fiber kiln and running it for a 10-minute full fuse, which created these little frit balls. After running these through the kiln, I give them a soak in vinegar to get the fiber paper off. If I don't do that, the fiber paper ends up working its way through the frit ball, and you can see it on the finished product. But if you soak it with vinegar, it gets rid of all the fiber paper. So once I've got a whole bunch of them that are around the same size, then I go back and actually pair them into little trios. This is transparent glass, so I'm going to need to find some stringers for stems, because the stringers that I had been I'd hoped to use are actually not transparent. So those will not work. These are olive green. This is an olive green, but this is an olive green opaque, and this is an olive green transparent. So I'm going to need to find some different stringers. The background piece for both the necklaces and the earrings are going to be this beautiful green streaky. I've got, I believe, 1-inch squares and then 3/4 inch squares. And I will put a white square on top of each. And then I will build my little shamrock on top of the white square. And most of them are going to have just one, but I may use some of these teeny tiny ones and make a few shamrocks on some of the necklaces. So I have to cut up a bunch of the background squares, a bunch of the white squares, and I'm using dense white. And then I'm going to make loops out of nichrome wire, so you can just quickly put it over a chain. So I'm going to use a couple different greens actually. And some of them I'm going to keep square. I'll make some square pendants, and some of them I'm going to round. So that way I can use some of the other frit balls that I have. So for necklaces, I have a bunch of 1-inch squares, and then 3/4 inch squares go over top, so you're going to end up with a little green border. Earrings, 3/4 inch squares with 1/2 inch squares. Some of them will be rounded, some of them will remain square. And some of these beautiful sections I decided not to cut up, and I'm going to do another trinket dish. So I'm saving those. Next, I'm going to go round off about 1/2 of these on the grinder. These are paired up necklace earrings. They are not perfect. They don't really have to be perfect. They are going to pull in a little bit in the kiln. These will round up more than they are. They will not stay sharp squares. These will get much rounder because I've ground them down. I have to decide with these, where there's such a beautiful aventurine green on the front, well, on the one side, and then a very ordinary green on the back. Do I want them to have shamrocks on one side and then to be able to be worn as just a plain green earring? Or do I want that sparkly outline? So I have to think about which I would prefer. And I'm thinking probably one-sided and put the sparkly green on the shamrock side. And these are just fairly ordinary. So after I looked at putting a bail on the back, a handmade bail. I realized I would have to keep it off-centered, and I would rather have it centered, so I'm going to do a glue-on bail after they're done. So next up is glue the white part on the green part, and then attach the shamrocks. So these are ready to go into the kiln. You'll see that they shift a little bit, so I'm going to have to keep making sure that they stay in place. I'm going to dust them with a layer of crystal clear powder, so all these fiddly little bits will stay in place. And then I will put them in for a tack fuse. When they come out, I'll glue on the bails. These are done firing. They turned out great. Still a little too warm to work with, so I'll come down in a few hours and glue the bails on. Once they come out, I'll decide whether I want little bails, bigger bails, posts, or dangly earrings. And I have to decide whether I want silver plate or gold plate. But I'll make that decision once they're cool. And look at that, while digging, I found my sterling silver fire in, so you actually can put these in the kiln and they don't get distorted. I couldn't find them earlier in the year when I needed them. If I had thought ahead, I could also have done some adorable St. Patrick's Day barrettes. To get these ready to wear, I'm going to use Gorilla Maximum Strength Construction Adhesive, and I'm going to use these little glue-on bails for the necklaces. And then I'm going to use posts for the earrings. Okay, when you put the glue on, you need to hold it for 30 to 60 seconds. And then it's got to cure for 24 hours. So pinch it on, make sure it's on there really well. And then make sure everything is perfectly straight, and then leave them sit for 24 hours. The pendants are done. They've all been glued. And I do need to clean up a little bit because I was a little bit sloppy. But those are adorable. And then with the earrings, in order for them to dry properly, I get a shoebox, I cover it with parchment paper, pop holes in it, and then after gluing the back on the earring, I then pop the earring right through that hole so that I can put a weight on top of the earrings. And they will have time to cure for 24 hours, which is what you need to do with this. I made a really good choice putting the aventurine side up. Look at how beautiful that is with the sparkly border. And once they're all in there, so that you have the flat part of the metal pushing against the cardboard, I cover it with paper toweling so nothing gets scratched. and put a weight on top of it. And then let them sit for 24 hours to cure. I find they look great with any type of chain or cord that you happen to have. This one is satin, this one is leather. There's a skinny chain, a much thicker chain, and they really look pretty no matter how you present them.